What's up, guys? JD here, and on today's show, I am talking to Raine Maida, lead singer of Our Lady Peace and the founder of Fandrop.com. So Raine's a rock star. He's sold millions of albums. He has performed in front of millions of people, and Fandrop is his new company. And I gotta tell you, every time I talk to Raine, I'm just energized and inspired by what he's doing. There's two things I love about this episode that you're gonna love too. Number one, we talk about the music industry and we get into the weeds about how people actually make money performing today. And newsflash, a lot of them don't. And understanding how it actually works, like how do you tour? How do you sell merchandise? How do you make money from album sales and Spotify and all that kind of stuff? I learned a lot. And I think even if you don't care about the industry at all, if you have nothing to do with it, understanding how your favorite musicians make a living, super interesting. The second piece is Fandrop, which is this app that actually gives artists the ability to connect with their fans one-on-one, first-party relationships with the people on stage and the people in the crowd. And as we get into the conversation, you're going to see how Raine thinks about all this and all the different opportunities. Like if this thing works and if this thing comes to fruition as Raine sees it happening, I think the opportunity is massive. So I love conversations like this. I know you guys are going to love it too. If you like this show, all I ask that when you get value, like, subscribe, share with a friend. That's how we grow. Of course, you can learn more at jondavids.com. Get on my email list. And now, here's the episode.
I've been in the music business for 25 plus years, literally, not to sound like a dummy, but I played in front of millions of people. But it's 2024, and I really don't have a direct connection to those fans. I do in the moment. It feels biblical, in an arena or a large theater where we're having this experience with, you know, thousands of people every night for 2 to 3 hours. But the reality is the lights turn on and they walk away. And then we've all kind of acquiesced in this modern times with technology that we're going to try to reach those fans on on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever, social media giant that we use on a daily basis. The problem is those are all run by algorithms. Those are all made to make money. They're not about discovery. They're about keeping you engaged. So I think any marketing company, any agency, any brand, and now for sure any artist is realizing quickly that it's almost futile trying to reach your fans there. And so for the music business explicitly, there's a real crisis going on in terms of the middle class kind of being squeezed out, where the margins on touring are really dire, to be honest. Not to be dark, I'm an optimist, but that's the truth of the matter. And we've lost revenue with streaming, obviously. So there has to be something has to give, and I think that is this direct connect. It's not going to come from the record label. It's not going to come from Spotify. It's not going to come from the social media giants in terms of sharing that data, sharing our fan data with the artists. So it's up to us to get in the data game, like to get data savvy. And our thesis at Fandrop is, especially if you're a touring artist and you're playing shows, do not let those fans walk away anonymous. They paid to see you. They want to connect with you. So we built a platform that makes it really seamless and simple to make that connection before they walk away.
If okay, let's just talk about a world without fan drops for a second. So how does an actual middle class artist, like I think we all know how Taylor Swift and Beyonce make money, but like what kind of work do you have to be doing just in terms of like album sales and downloads and how many concerts, like how what do you have to do to actually make a living as a working artist today in a world without fan drops?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you said it's funny. Like album sales are non-existent. Downloads are non-existent. It's all on streaming, and streaming just, straight up doesn't pay. So whether it crosses some threshold where artists get fair value exchange for their streams, but it seems like it's getting worse, to be honest. Especially with AI music coming, I don't think we're really prepared for what that potential can be. So the reality is that an artist, you know you have to be able to go play live and tour to make money. There's a few of them that can, derive income from some of the social platforms, but I know tons of people who've lost those revenue as soon as the algorithm changed. So You want to be a touring artist, and the problem is I think everyone had this great appreciation for music during COVID. We realized how incredible it was. It kind of, it's interesting as a study where I watched every new series on HBO and Netflix and Hulu. My kids and I and my wife, we just devoured all that stuff. Everything that was new was great because it kept you busy and engaged and got you through those kind of lockdowns. But for music, I always went back to old stuff. I went back to like my Buckley record or Buckley record Grace, Jeff Buckley, Neil Young and old U2 records and some old punk records, Clash, and music is this solace, this it's like a warm blanket for us, right? And so I think the general theory was that coming out of COVID, that oh my gosh, there's going to be so much money to be made. People are going to flock back to shows, and they have in a sense. But the problem is ticket prices are incredibly high, and when you talk about the supply chain issues economically around the world, it's really affected artists. Renting a bus, renting a van, hotels, flights, the cloth you need to buy to get your merch made, shipping costs of that merch. All those things have remained at a really high rate, and they don't seem to be coming down, much like groceries or other things on the periphery of music. And unfortunately, it's made the margins for touring really, really razor thin for artists. So I know artists now that won't name names, but we all know anyone listening to this podcast would know and probably like a lot of them, but not realize that they'll finish like an 8-week tour through North America and come back and say, I just lost $37,000. Like, how does it become a viable business when I'm selling out shows to like 1,500 people a night, selling merch, but I'm losing money? Like, this doesn't make sense. And so that's really, a top level why fan drop is important. It's because if you don't connect directly and get that D2C relationship with your fans, it's going to be really difficult to sustain. Music's going to turn into a hobby for a lot of people, and I'm seeing it. Like I said, I'm not a doomsday guy at all, but I'm seeing artists be like, I have to get a job. Like I can't continue to do this or rely on it as my full-time income.
I wanted to. We'll get into fan drop more in just a second, but I'm just so curious about this. So you're saying an artist can do a show for 1,500 people, sold out, decent ticket price, plus they're selling the merch at the door and whatever else, and they're that's not a profitable, just on a pure unit economics. Like they're not making a profit that night.
No, I mean, not to expose the industry, but I think it's important. Fans understand, and musicians don't want to talk about this as kind of a dirty little secret. But the VIP stuff that you see a lot at shows, where you get your super fans to pay for a VIP meet and greet, and you get like 30 people backstage, and you shake hands and take pictures. That's become the income source, really. I think people have kind of acquiesced to the fact that the tour itself is a break-even proposition, but we use these kind of extras as the money makers. And as a business model, if someone said you want to invest in this business or this artist, and that's the only place they're going to make money, you're going to be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah, just trying to find that viability and finding a way back to where this can, like I said, not turn into a hobby for the majority of the middle class of musicians is really kind of my it's what keeps me up at night, and it's why I've spent so much time on Fandrop.
Okay, so fan drop. What is the actual product? If I'm a fan, how would I see this product?
Yeah, so the simplicity of it all is it's 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 trying to I'll give you an example. If anybody comes to an Our Lady Peace show at this point in my career, if I look out and there's thousands of people out there, it's not just the people that bought the VIP that paid, extraordinary amounts of money to come meet us backstage. It's everybody in that room, in my eyes, as the founder and singer of Our Lady Peace, is a super fan. It's my job now to make them feel like that, to show them my gratitude and my appreciation for reaching into their hands, paying that, high price ticket and driving, paying for parking and coming to see me. My gratitude is out of control for that. But how do I, besides just saying thank you on stage, how do I really show that? So what Fan Drop does, it allows me to make every fan in there feel like a super fan. And what we do is all a fan needs to do when they come in the venue, we use geolocation um, services that we built. And all you do is type in fan drop and our geo picks you up. It verifies you. You sign in with Google or email. You get a code. In 3 seconds, you're in, and now you're receiving instant rewards. You're receiving these loyalty incentives. You are connected directly to me as an artist, directly to the band. And now we have this one-to-one relationship without these intermediaries. So there's no third parties involved. So I can serve you whatever I want, and I can start understanding who you are as a fan. Typically I would only get to know my fans through something like a meet and greet where it's like you shake someone's hand, they say, "Hey, you know what? I came to Boston, but I'm from Florence, Italy." And I'm like, "Whoa, this is amazing. Like so I'm so grateful that you're here. Nice to meet, someone that drove 2 hours away from Philly or something." It's like those types of things are for an artist. You're like, wow, thank you for, I didn't know that. You don't know that when you're just looking on the crowd. Now I get to understand who's there. I get to have a relationship with you, and you start building these fan personas. And on the back end of our platform, the artist gets to know this about the fans. And so if I start seeing, on the back end of Fan Drop that, hey, I have this subset of fans that have been to 4 shows. Sometimes maybe you notice, I think I saw you last night and you're here again. Amazing. You give someone a thumbs up. And now I start to actually know, like, wow, we have 50 people here tonight that were at the last couple shows as well. So I'm gonna send them something really cool saying thank you. So it's that kind of personal relationship that Fan Drop starts to allow. But again, it really starts at just that check-in. And as soon as you check in, you're going to get some sort of instant reward from the artist. And I think that relationship is just so critical. So we just make it pretty seamless and simple to direct community to the artist.
It's something that I think creators who have come up in the last 3, 4 years, maybe on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever, they only know a world where everybody is a digital person. So like I can see who likes, I can see who comments, I can see who's subscribing to my newsletter by email address. I can cross geolocate that, oh, this person signed up from North Carolina. So you can kind of see all that in the social world, but you come from a world where, like you said, you're playing, there's just like 3,000 people in front of you jumping up and down. You don't actually know who they are or where they work, where they live. And so this really does sound like a game changer for an artist.
I think so. I think it's very exciting. Like even beyond the data side and what that allows the artist to start to understand, just the fact that we're removing those gatekeepers is exciting because like to give you another example, like this is how we saw this, or this is at least how I saw this coming and started building Fan Drop like almost 3 years ago. Um, I would pull into Boston. We'd play a sold out show or not. But these great shows. But then the next day we're on to Philly or New York, and I wake up and obviously on my instant feed it's like, "Hey, when are you guys touring? When are you coming to Boston?" And it's like, what? And
It's insane,
and
insane.
John, this is after doing like 2 or 3 months of promos and working with, promoters and venues and, to create that awareness and sell tickets. And it was like, how did you, if you're following us on socials, how did you miss that? But that just shows you the volatility of relying on these, big social networks where, algorithms are pushing stuff down. And again, it's not about discovery. These things are typically meant to make money and it's just about engagement. So I started seeing that. And I was just like, this is not working. Like these things are not our friends. They're not helping me. Um, and I'm having to pay to try to reach my audience and I can't get past like 6 or 7%. We've done all this testing. So, that was really one of the big like kind of wake up calls for me where I was just like, man, we gotta fix this. We gotta find it. I'm not going to change them. I'm not going to convince Zuckerberg or anyone to start sharing that data, or any of the big promotion companies or ticketing or any of that stuff, which is fine. Like they have their business models. It's not for me to change that, but how can we help? And this is how we help. We just make sure that, like I said, artists use Fan Drop in the venue at shows. It's almost like don't leave home without us because you do not want those fans to walk away anonymous because it's really tough to get them back.
So a fan comes in, they're watching a concert, they're snapping that QR code or they're using the geolocator to sign up, and now they're part of your database. So the next time you go on tour in that city or somewhere else, you can tell them, "Hey, John, I'm coming to your city. Here's the link to buy the tickets." You're not relying on Instagram stories for me to see, and maybe I just miss it that day.
100%. That's exactly it. And I mean, not to get too deep in the platform, but you can actually message those fans at that show, like from backstage after you get off stage. Like you can send a direct message to all those fans that were there that night. And what's interesting about that is why we built that. I was really kind of bullish on this one feature was because now they know that it's directly for them. Like it's not going out on socials. It's not for everyone. It's because you're at that show, you're I'm saying hello. And it could be a video message just saying, hey, man, that was a crazy when I jumped off the stage, or thank God those people caught me, whatever it is, you can say something specific and it's not, it, there's something about not just FOMO, but being in this exclusive group. And like you were in that, it's hard to tell someone what it was like, when you're at a concert and it was incredible. That electric feeling there should be for those people that, kind of ponied up the money and they were there. And I want to keep that exclusivity. And that happens with some of the rewards and some of the stuff that we offer and give people a chance to win in the venue. It's because you were there. It's not for everyone else. And I kind of like that ability as well.
100%. You're bridging the offline with the online, and like you said, I've seen the stories on your feed where you were in Boston that night, but like I wasn't there, so I don't know what that was like. But then if you're walking off stage or you're in your bunk on the tour bus and you're talking to those fans who are literally going to be sitting in traffic driving home, they just got home, and it's like, wow, Raine's actually like messaging us right now talking about that set he just did. That's super. It's exclusive, but it's also really intimate. Like you're right there with them.
Yeah, it is. It just I've always felt, and I think I've said it in interviews and stuff. I've always, as you become an artist and have a career and you start touring and more, you start to feel like your fans are your friends. Like you do feel like you have this intimate relationship. But again, it's always been controlled, owned, and monetized by third parties. So the fact that where you're just saying I can have it direct with those fans now, it's almost like a gift in a sense for me. I just feel like I'm I've been in this business a long time now, but I feel like we're investing in our future now, where these fans are actually in my community. They're actually my friends, and I have that direct connection, and it's just so vital to an artist's career and sustainability. But even in terms of what we do as artists, that's it. Like I want to continue that relationship. Like I said, it was biblical for 3 hours. It was incredible. I don't want to just stop it. I don't want it to evaporate because the lights go up and you walk out. I want to continue that. I think fan clubs back in the day, I know Pearl Jam, I don't know if they still have, I think it was called 10 Club. Like those things tried to do that as well. It was, it's a little bit antiquated now in terms of, just sending out whatever they did and the way those things function. This is just, I look at this kind of like a modern version of that.
I remember that. Like you could have Pearl Jam where you'd have an actors fan club and you'd get like a postcard every month. Totally. So, okay, how does this? I've got like a bunch of questions now. What's the? You started off by saying that the business model is broken and artists are losing thousands of dollars on tours. How does this help that? How does this help you make money?
Yeah, so it's almost a bit of a if you build it, they will come theory in the sense of as you like the we always felt as we were building this product of FanDrop that can't let go of the fact that the hardest thing to do is to get them in your community at first because we've relied so much on the social media networks and channels to connect and talk to our fans. You can't convert there. Like if I were, no matter how many if I have 100,000 fans on Instagram, if I try to sell those fans a ticket or a VIP or a hoodie or something that's exclusive, it's really rough. Like the conversion numbers are not happening. So the same applies to converting them in terms of, hey, we just built this really cool fan community. You want to come join? Even whether it's a subscription or not, we saw those numbers being really kind of non-existent. So the theory is always, hey, if you're touring, you have a captive audience there. They've paid to come see you. They want to be part of your community. So that the product was basically like, what's the easiest way just to get them to join and be a part of this, direct community with the artists. And so that's why, just the ability to just type in fan drop, our geo picks you up, verifies you in 3 seconds, you're in, and you're getting instant rewards, and you're up. You can win stuff and get exclusive things. But to your point, what happens is once you build that community, and look, I'll give you another example. It's as embarrassing to say, but you're a friend, and here we go. After 25 years of touring and literally playing in front of millions of people, you know, before we started Fan Drop, and one of the impetus for starting was our community, like our email list, was like 13,000, and half of those didn't work because they weren't real emails anyway. So it was just like, man, this is craziness. So that was what we want to tackle first. How do we just forge this connection as seamless and as easy as possible? We built a native app at first, but tons of friction with that in venues in terms of trying to download an app. I think people have app fatigue. QR codes are great, but sometimes you're in the middle of a pit, you don't want to leave, or you can't scan it, or whatever. It's just there's a bit of friction there. I think they were better than an app. But the idea now with FanDrop is wherever you are in the venue, it doesn't matter. You just type that URL in, and our geo picks you up. You're in. So it's trying to remove every friction point for a fan. So it's super simple. But then back to your point in a long way. Once you have that community, now post show, I can give those fans the opportunity to buy like whatever they want. And I usually use that community to kind of ask them what they want. Like if we're going to do this super colored vinyl of Naveed on the 30th anniversary this year, are you guys in? We've had a resounding yeah. So they're going to get those offers first. So if it sells out within my community, it does, and so be it. And I'm happy about that. If we do some cool merch drops that we just wanted to do exclusively to them, that's amazing too. And then when we come to tour again, where it really gets interesting is now I know the data. I know better probably than my agent, than our promoter, than any data they have on, hey, I know how many fans we have in Calgary now, and I can get directly to them. And I know the conversion rate, so I can safely say we should go play this venue, as opposed to just looking at past data and kind of guessing. It's like no, I can probably sell it out pre-sale. That's really exciting. I can sell my VIPs directly to those fans. I can sell merch before we even get to the show direct to that community. Now we start building a sustainable business model where it's like, okay, I've taken ownership. And I think with my band, it's a different thing where we came up in the awareness of because we had different channels with MTV and Much Music and radio. But if you're a new artist, what's really exciting is maybe not. In my view, it is. You can build this cottage industry now where maybe not everybody knows who you are, but you can pull into LA and sell out the Wiltern, which is like 2,400 people. No one knows you were really there except your core fans, but you're making money, and it's an amazing, viable business again.
It taps into the whole world of building these micro communities, whether you're a brand or a YouTuber or on TikTok or you're a comedian. I mean, comedians do it all the time now. They're building their brand on TikTok and they're going out and selling out arena, or not arenas, but they're going and selling out clubs all across. In some cases, it's arenas all across the U.S. And so I totally get that. And I'm just thinking, like, what this is so. When you say it like this, of course, like I have a jam-packed house, 2,500 people are there. They're all hyped up on dopamine. So if I tell them to download this thing, I'm going to get a 90% download rate. And then I have their first party data. It's so simple. So what's holding this back? Like why isn't this the biggest thing in the music business right now? Are there gatekeepers who are trying to, make you kind of not do this, or do you get resistance from artists?
I think it's just, for some reason it's really interesting. As a case study would be fascinating to figure out. But music has always been slow. Like music was slow to streaming in terms of, hey, this technology is coming. Not that you have to find a way around it, but like how do we embrace it or leverage it to where the artists don't get screwed? That didn't happen. Somehow we let the big major labels buy into Spotify, and now they make all the money, and it really doesn't trickle down to the artists. We've just always been a little bit slow, and I think it's just, I always look through an artist lens as well. I want to sit here and just make music every day. I don't actually want to have to do social. I don't like doing TikTok. I don't even do TikTok, but I don't like having to do Instagram posts, and I don't like really having to do anything other than trying to get better at my craft and then go play a show and make sure I can sing well that night and all the stuff that goes around putting on a show. So the fact that every artist now has to wear multiple hats and has to be their own, CEO and business, not every artist is built that way. So I think that's maybe a factor in terms of why adoption is a little bit slower. Um, but it's also understanding that, hey, like it is pretty new. I was just at South by, and it's like this is the first year I felt like, okay, people are talking about data like in a really interesting way. And so I think we're just a little bit behind in the music business, but you know I'm I'm preaching every day, talking to managers and artists, saying we got to get data savvy. If you don't get in the data game, you're kind of dead. And so it'll happen. The good thing about the music business is once it starts, once there's a tool there that people see it really helps, fill a gap or help a pain point, that everybody talks, and I think it gets adopted really quickly. We're just trying to get to that tipping point with fan drop that artists start to understand. It's like literally, I tell managers and artists every day, I don't care. There's a couple of, we have some competitors in the space. I don't care if you use us, but as an artist, use something. Do not go into a show and not try to, convert your fans into your own community and database, because that you just let those people walk away anonymous. It's so hard to reach them on socials and get them back. It's kind of, I almost say it, I hate to say it, but if you do that, if you play a show without fan drop, shame on you.
Are you getting pushback? So I want to talk about the artists and the managers in a second, but like the ticket masters of the world, the live nations, the actual venues themselves who sell tickets to the people who, live in that neighborhood, are they like, this is terrible and we don't want this?
No, not at all. No, I don't think so. And I don't think it's definitely not a threat to them. Like was saying before, an artist controlling their future, owning their fan data is actually, it helps everybody. It helps our agent in terms of not, actually knowing, like, I'll give you an example. Like we played Boston last year, OLP did, and we did fan drop in the venue and we had like 50 or 55% conversion rate. So instead of me going on Instagram after the show, trying to see if someone posted something, which is ridiculous, I just go to the fan drop dashboard and I'm seeing, wow, all these people came in. I'm going to send them a note saying thank you for being here. But what I realized on the back end of the data, it's like, hey, most of these people drove in from like outside of Boston, like 15, 20 miles, So understanding, I'm like, man, I bet if we would have played in Worcester, Mass, could we have like doubled our capacity? Could we play at a bigger venue, because it wasn't a burden to come in all the way into Boston in traffic downtown, pay $30 for parking, blah, blah, blah. So you start to make more informed business decisions with that data that you get through FanDrop. That
Well,
helps everybody. That helps the promoters. That helps ticket sales. That helps our agent. Helps my manager be a better manager. But it's really coming from me.
I totally get that. But if I'm Live Nation or I'm Ticketmaster, aren't I sitting there going, no, 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 this is our data. We want to know this stuff. We don't want to empower the band. Listen, maybe I'm just being super critical, but do you not think that there are powers that exist that say we don't want to let go of that leverage?
I don't think they do. Like if I think for motor or ticketing agency, like they're getting a certain amount of data, but I think even they admit at the end of the day, it's like it's math. Someone buys, someone wants to go see, Pearl Jam. They're probably buying 2 to 4 tickets on one credit card. So even those companies, they don't really understand who's in the venue. They have a small percentage, but they don't understand the full capacity. So we're really just helping understand more people in the venue and more of those fans. So I like, again, maybe I'm too much of an optimist, but I feel like the artists owning their fan data, we're just helping in terms of making this a bigger business, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I didn't think about that, but you're right. If I'm buying a ticket from Ticketmaster, they just know me. They don't know my wife and our 2 friends who I'm also buying the tickets for, who came in from a different country. So then the other piece of it is the managers and the agents. I would think that if you brought this to the big music talent agencies, they'd be like, yeah, we don't know any of this stuff. Let's get this on board now. What's the objection? Because you're talking to a lot of them. What's their number one objection?
Again, I think it's just new. I think the idea of fan drop being the most powerful, you were talking about the ticketing company. So they know you're there, but they don't know your wife and the other couple. I think what's great about fan drop is we kind of like, it's like, oh, I see it as like this really symbiotic relationship where they got that initial hit of who bought a ticket and they know you. We pick up that signal as you enter the room with your 3 other people, which is amazing. It is a lot of math. It's data. I think when you say where's the friction for managers and artists, it's just new. It's just really getting them to that starting gate of, hey, this is something you need to do. But I do go back to the idea of an artist. We've already been, and this is from an artist lens, I've been told for the last 5 years, it's like, you got to post more. You got to get on TikTok. You got to build that channel. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to write good songs. Or I just got off a flight back from Calgary to LA. I'm like exhausted. I'm not posting today or this week. And it's just like when you say, hey, here's another new thing you got to do. But I do tell artists and managers, like, I get all that stuff on social media, but they're not your friends. Your fan drop community is the most important community you will ever build. And so it's just, you know, it takes what's the average 6 or 7 times for people to see a concert coming before they buy the ticket. I think it's the same philosophy. I gotta be in their ear 4 or 5 or 6 times before they say, okay, I get it, Rain.
Yeah, man,
I'm glad you kept bugging me. I'm in.
I get that. If people did what was best for them and what was logical, that would be awesome. But that just doesn't happen, and it takes a lot of pushing. So let's talk about the business side. You're sitting in your studio. You're right now. You're in your studio. I'm sure that's where you love to be. How do you even like separate your time to be like, I'm Rain, the founder CEO of Our Lady Peace, versus I'm Rain, the founder CEO of Fan Drops? Like, do you divide your time 50-50? Like, what are you doing?
I mean, I think, OLP is kind of like a well-oiled machine at this point. Um, the way songs come out, the way they're recorded, our touring schedules, it's very efficient. So it really allows me to spend uh, an enormous amount of time on Fandrop. But I do see them as very, again, not to overuse the word, but there's a lot of symbiosis between the two. What I love about tech, even with Fandrop, like you know, I I write somewhere out there, clumsy or Superman's dead, and I put it out. It is what it is. I can't go back and change it. Once you have it on vinyl or it's to the radio or it's on any of the DSPs, it's like that's what it is. With a tech product, what I found really fascinating is there's this feedback loop you get into with tech where it's like you test it in a live situation, and I think I'm the perfect guy to do it because I can actually take it out to an OLP show or get some friends to try it and see the results and be like, oh, you know what, we can tweak this, and I can go reimagine it, get creative with it, you know, iterate on it, and relaunch it, ship that product, and try it again. I love that ability, man, that these things are these living organic things that we can keep getting better at. There's a lot of creativity in the tech world as well that I think is a little bit more continuous, and I just love that flow.
I never thought of that. The way you described a song as a startup, as a tech guy, I understand that whole idea of I could build an app and I could change a line of code tomorrow, and everyone's got a different app all of a sudden. You spend whatever it is, a week, a month, a year writing a song, you put it out there, and that's the song. You could change it if you want, but everyone's going to be like, oh no, that's you saying that word wrong, Rain. It's this. You can't change it.
That's it. Yeah, it's finite. Where a platform, a product, and again, I'm lucky because I'm I'm focused on FanDrop, which is in the music space as well, and so I honestly feel like it's almost like a legacy thing for me in the terms of I want this to work. Not obviously the business model has to be sound and all that stuff, but I just want to help artists. I just want to help artists, take back control of their careers and build these sustainable careers. So I feel like, again, if I was building just a widget for something, I don't know if I'd be as passionate about it in terms of, the tech side of it and that feedback loop and being able to iterate on an app that you ship and you can change it every month. The fact that it's in music does help. I'm not going to lie there.
How are you running this thing? Like, who's funding it? Who's paying for it? Are you raising money? What's the actual business behind it?
Yeah, so people don't know, but I've probably built 3 or 4 products over the last 15 years, mostly in the music entertainment space. Started with like a live streaming product that called Record Mob that we launched back in 2014 at South by, but same time as like Meerkat came out and then Facebook Live, and it was like we're just not going to be able to win this race. Like, how do we compete against Facebook for live streaming? Then we actually built a live streaming app during COVID, not as a business, but just to help some artists. And I think we did, I don't know, 70 shows and raised a bunch of money. Like some artists killed it on there. But then live comes back, and I just didn't want to get in that war. There was a lot of live streaming apps. But my co-founder is a guy named Mitchell Butler, built a company out of Kitchener Waterloo called Mapped In. So it's one of the leading geo mapping companies in the world. Any mall you've been into that has the new fancy touch screens that, you can navigate where you want to go in the mall. That's mapped in. Um, Mitch and I have kind of been thick as thieves as partners building things for the last, 4 or 5 years. So the idea that I have such a great co-founder, we've been able to keep the business very lean. He's a super smart business guy, but full stack engineer, coder. He's built FanDrop, himself basically, and I can obviously handle all the other side of biz dev and helping with product. I love product. Excuse me, but we're at that point now where I think on a business level, we want to scale this quickly. We definitely want, and obviously for the sake of artists, I think the sooner you do this, the better off you'll be. But these things are always a race to try to get the most market share, and so we're thinking those terms now and doing again, we don't have to go raise millions of dollars. We're doing like a $500,000 raise, and already have some of that money committed, but that's we're able to run lean, and I do like the idea. I remember a friend of mine, another founder, was telling me, and I lean on, founders that I look up to and people that have done this, including yourself, John, in terms of like, what's the best path to success here on a business level? I think being able to stay nimble is something that we have as a tech team, and not being accountable to VCs who try to control and maybe manipulate a business, and maybe end up having to control with taking board seats and stuff like that. So yeah, we're trying to keep it in house as much as we can, so we can move quickly. I think that's really important in the music space, very important in this space in particularly. But that the key is to move quickly right now and try to get as much market share as we can.
I fully agree. And when we had dinner a few months ago, I said, do not raise money. And I understand there's maybe some different reasons to and to not. But yeah, to me, if you're running this as nimble as you are, and I know how powerful your CTO is, so you can do a whole lot with not a lot of resources. Yeah, to me, this just feels, and maybe you can tell me if this is the path you go. But if you can get one or two big music agencies, and just from my knowledge, the music industry, there's, I'm sure, a handful of agencies and talent rep firms who manage a lot of artists. So you don't need to go artist to artist necessarily if the agency signs on and backs you. Is that the way the industry works?
Yeah, I think validation from kind of the top level, like you said, like top managers who have a bunch of artists under their umbrella or agencies, or I mean, to be honest, even of Live Nation, a lot of those guys are Canadian. They're my friends. They believe in it. They want. I mean, if you look at any of the talks that Michael Rapino, who's the CEO of Live Nation, gives, it's like he's the first to say we're nothing without our artists. So they want the artists to win as well. So I don't think there's a lot of friction at the top, but it is artist to artist again, unfortunately, because they're the ones that have to lean in. Like it's fine for fan. I mean, I think there's in a perfect world, sometime in the next 2 years, fan drop becomes ubiquitous in the industry, where it's like you walk into a venue, because once you've checked in once for fan drop, you're in. So if you use it at the Kings of Leon show, and then you're at a Killer show or one of my shows, you're already going to be in. As long as we're using fan drop, it's like you're going to get, as soon as you walk in there, the Geo is going to pick you up and be like, "Hey, Raine, welcome to the Killer Show. You just received this free reward, and you're up into a raffle to meet the band afterwards." Like that stuff's automatically going to happen. The thing is, it's still artist to artist, because they have to be the ones that approve it and lean in on it. But at the same time, what's really interesting over the last 6 months that we found is brands are actually having the same, I think, or seeing the same pain point, where, especially if you're a digital brand and you're relying on those social platforms for paid ads, and that's how you get your awareness and sell product, that the algorithms are suffocating them as well. So the idea that, hey, let's talk to FanDrop, we can basically do a partnership with them and maybe an artist or a venue, where we can have a digital presence in a venue that we never were able to get into before because we couldn't afford that physical footprint or the real sponsorship dollars. Like, we can do it on a smaller level with FanDrop, and I can get my brand, whether it's like a cool rock and roll jewelry or a new startup water company or energy drink or whatever it is. I can be in that venue digitally, and I can be in front of real people. Like, these are real, actually living, breathing people, not someone at home clicking and scrolling. And if my average paid, cost per click is $1 to $2. Like, I don't even know how to measure that. With FanDrop, you can actually measure it and see what happens in a venue. So we're seeing some revenue start to come in on that level as well. And I love the idea of maybe getting sponsors and brands to pay for that, and we can cut a check to the artist. If they want to get involved, we can make this a bigger relationship. It's like, hey, we can get a check for you for your tour. You got to buy into the sponsor, and hopefully, if you dig what they're doing, then it's like we can help underwrite that tour. That's really powerful.
If you could bring a brand on board, so they have a first party data based on all the members of your community on FanDrop, but then at the show, there's an activation. You have this amazing, real world and digital connection with this potential customer. Again, if you're a water brand, if you're a soda brand, whatever that looks like. And so the sponsorship opportunities here, because of the one-to-one connection, are crazy powerful. And then layer on to that the Substack model, where you say, hey, if you like Our Lady Peace, you also might like the Killers, you also might like Kings of Leon. So you can start referring people. And then the third piece of that is, if you're a sponsor, you can come on board not just for one band, but for a collection of bands, for a whole genre. So there's so much to do once you actually get some scale here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it maybe got lost in the conversation, but I think it's really important to point out that FanDrop does not gatekeep the data. So if you're an artist, you play Massey Hall last night, and I don't know, it's whatever, 26 or 3,000 people capacity there, and you onboarded 1,200 people into your community. At the end of the night, you can download all those emails, they're verified emails, into your MailChimp or Klaviyo, whatever you use as CMS. We are not gatekeeping the data for artists. So I just wanted to make that clear as well.
You're not gatekeeping it, but I don't think it's a downside to say these 1,200 people that signed up tonight, you can keep them, you can download them so they're yours, but you can keep them here. And combined with these other 10,000 people, we have a sponsorship deal, which you'll get your share of. So it's not, I guess there's a win-win here where the artists can have their data and eat their data too.
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting, I had this conversation just yesterday with the brand, and it's like, you want to talk about scale. It's like, hey, can you get me on, so and so's tour who's playing every arena across North America, or all the sheds down here in the US in the summer? And I'm like, yeah, we can go for that. But at the same time, I think it's really interesting in the sense of, do you not want to be in the club, like the small, like Velvet Underground in Toronto on next Tuesday, when this hit new artist is playing that is just bubbling, hasn't broken wide yet, but the fans at that show, even if there's only 100 fans in that room, those are actually the cool kids that know about this artist first. So if they know about your brand first as well, those are like the biggest evangelists, because they're the tastemakers in their own community. They're the first ones to see that artist. And if they are the first ones to hear about your brand as well, they're going to take that out into the world, and they're going to make your brand cool. I think that is, if I was a brand, I'd rather start there, no matter who you are. But it's like, get in with that cool crowd who are the tastemakers first. These are the actual influencers, because influencer marketing it's tough to measure. But the idea that, oh my God, I have like, I said it yesterday. I was like, I remember these shows when there was only like 15 people in the crowd. I remember I saw Jane's Addiction back in the day. I'm dating myself. But the idea of seeing Jane's Addiction at a small club in Toronto, I snuck in. I was only 14. But it wasn't sold out. It wasn't even close to sold out. But the kids that were there were like rabid. And you're in the know. So if I would have been a brand activated in that club, obviously, fast forward 25 years, and through FanDrop, it's like, I just got 15 of the coolest kids in Toronto, understanding who we are as a brand, and going out in the world saying, yeah, this band was sick, but this brand's really cool as well. And that, I mean, I don't know, you'll know better than me how powerful that is in terms of influencer world, but I think that would be amazing to have those 15 tastemakers go out and try to, advocate for how cool you are as a brand.
I don't think people realize. So I'll give you two examples. There's a graphic. It's a Facebook graphic from like 10 years ago where they showed the nodes of how information passes and how it spreads wide. But it always starts with like one person or one small group, and then it just gets to millions. There's two examples though I'll share just on what you said. So in the world of influencer marketing, at Influicity, we do a ton of influencer marketing. If it's a product targeting moms in the US, there is no better group than Utah moms. I have no idea why, but the mom influencers in Utah are so freaking influential that you get something in their hands, every mom on social media knows about it. The second group, food. So we have a lot of food clients, food and beverage. You don't need to go national if you're launching a food and beverage client. You just need to get into a few restaurants in New York City. Like if you can get into like 5 places in New York that matter, guess what? Everybody knows about you. And so it's just about finding those pockets. And like you said, in the music world, that one hot new artist that 99% of people have never heard of, but the 1% of tastemakers have, guess what? They're going to blow up in 3 months, and you want to know who they are right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love that idea because we've been having these conversations like, yeah, we can, we'll help you. You can be at this festival. I think that's great, but it's so noisy. There's so many things going on where if you can be in a small room, like you said, the Utah Moms, where just a small contingent of people that are highly focused on just your brand or that artist, I love that idea. I think it's so powerful. I hope more brands kind of like move towards that with us instead of wanting just to get on the big shows.
That's how it actually works. And people think, oh, I need to be part of the big, like the biggest show. Like, that's you're competing now with the biggest budget brands in the world. But more importantly, it's already kind of made a mainstream. It's not cool. It's not. It just doesn't have that cool factor.
That's important. Once things are mainstream, they lose that hit factor for sure. I agree with that 100%.
So let's wrap up on the brand. So you were Drops, now you're Fan Drop. What's that whole rebrand about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the philosophy of a startup. And like I said, like we were talking about before, on the raise side, we haven't really raised a lot of money yet. We're starting a raise now just to help scale. But in the early days, we just try to be really disciplined. Like I think Mitch and I we've done this before, so we're not new founders. We've broken eggs along the way, and the idea of just being disciplined on the financial side, or how we work with people on every aspect of a startup. So on the money side, we felt like, hey, there's some URLs out there, but they're money because everyone's bought up all these URLs, and FanDrop for us was always like, that is a great name. That's an amazing, branding for the company, but it was expensive, and we just felt like, I don't know, let's see if this thing works first before we go spend a lot of money on the URL. So we use Drops with two R's, and I grew up in the sneaker culture. I have three young boys. Spent way too much on sneakers and getting in raffles and trying to get the new, Travis Scott Jordans, or Nikes. But the idea of like Drops was cool to me. It felt in that culture, but it was with two R's, little clunky. But finally, we just bit the bullet as we felt this business having viability and being able to scale. It's like, man, let's go pay for. So we bought fandrop.com, and I think it's a game changer. I think even Fandrop as the company name, it says what we do pretty easily. And then the fact that that's all you have to do is type Fandrop in at any venue. And I think the scales into sports and any live event, it becomes, like that's what you're looking for when you go in a venue. I want to see what Fandrop's doing tonight, or is this artist on Fandrop, because I want to get something free, and I want to get a chance to participate on a deeper level. And so I'm really excited about the branding. Is super sick with the Fandrop name now, and it feels like, okay, it's time to hit the green light. Let's go.
Dude, I love, so first of all, I love the name. Fandrop.com is like first class real estate on the internet. But I love the go to market. The fact that you're
That's
starting
amazing. I'm going to use that, John. First class real estate on the internet. That's perfect. I'm writing that
beachfront. I
down.
can see the ocean from my window. I love the wedge. So anytime you're taking a new product to market, it's what's my wedge? And your wedge here is music. I know in your mind the whole vision is music, but the bigger picture here is the music industry is so ripe for this kind of innovation and change, and they have the rabid fans and they have the live events. So like everything about music is perfect for this. But like you just said, why doesn't this work for comedians? Why doesn't this work for sports teams? Why wouldn't this work for an independent fashion designer launching a new line of product, and they have their rabid fans who come out to the store, and now they're one-to-one relationships. So I think that honestly, this is just the beginning.
Yeah. I'm really excited about it. And we have case studies where this works. It works for brands like in a huge way, and it works for artists. And any of the artists that we've done about 1,000 shows over the last, year. 30 plus artists, I don't think anyone stopped using it, you know, and that is in the older iteration. So this newer kind of more sleek version of fan drop is just going to make it simpler for artists to keep using it. And you know, at 5 years, I hope I look back and say, hey, we made an impact and really, you know, brought something to market that changed the, you know, the trajectory of artists and building their own careers.